Okay, thank you very much for attending our webinar today titled Why MTAs Are Yesterday's Technology. My name is Don Byrne, happy to be here with you today. I'm joined by Chris Isbrecht, who is our Director of Security Engineering. I've kind of broken this webinar into two segments. Segment one is where we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of who we are and get into some of the nitty-gritty about how Avanan solution compares to MTA-based email gateway solutions like Proofpoint and Mimecast, and we'll dive into the details on that. Before I get started, just one thing to note: we're going to be answering questions at the end of this, and we'll try to answer them along the way. But there is a feature within the webinar capability here, allows you to ask questions along the way. There should be like a Q&A button. So if you see that, you got a question, just go ahead and throw that in there, and then we'll either try to respond to those directly during the webinar or towards the end. Cool. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. I obviously first want to start out and talk about who Avanan is, and we came to the market with the goal and the intention to provide a platform, right? A cloud application platform itself that helps secure cloud-based applications. And when you move to the cloud, there are security challenges, right? Leakage of sensitive information, emails coming in via O365 that hit phishing and malware attacks. So our goal was to help fill those gaps quickly and easily. And we like to say within a single click. In the 4 years that we've been in business, we've deployed to hundreds of customers worldwide. And that includes some of the largest, companies. Some of the bigger verticals that we're represented in are Fortune 500, government, which includes .edu, so higher education, healthcare, finance, manufacturing. These are some of our more popular verticals. But we're represented in all the other major verticals as well. The deployment sizes that we have range from 20 users, right, as small as 20, all the way up to 200,000. So clearly we have demonstrated the ability to scale. We've forged agreements with companies like Checkpoint, SonicWall, and Lastline. And these are great partnerships. They're great because they're technology that we're providing to them. Right, so these manufacturers actually leverage part of our technology in their offering. So that's a big that shows their confidence in our technology, and we're very proud of the fact that these brands have put their faith and trust in the Avanan platform. We've recently raised $25 million in Series B funding, and I always like to point this out simply because it's a big number, obviously, for anyone to invest $25 million. In a company that says quite a bit, but the investors that put that money in are our existing investors. They've been with us since day one. They know us the best out of all the VCs out there. They know us better than anyone else. They know our vision. They know what we're capable of, and they're so excited about where we're going that they decided to invest additional funds with us. And all this is really on the heels of us being considered to be the pioneer in API security for cloud-based email. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. You're going to hear me and Chris talk a lot about what API, cloud email, what's the difference. We're going to get into that. So in the years that we've been around and the hundreds and thousands of customers that we've talked to along the way, what have we discovered? We go in there and talk, hey, Mr. Customer, what are your cloud security? What are you doing in the cloud? And 9 times out of 10, they're using Office 365. And the ones that aren't there are on their way, right? So it's the most widely adopted business application on the market today. And when we ask, okay, what's your biggest challenge with securing O365? They come back and say, well, we've got a bunch of things, but really number one thing is that we're getting killed with phishing attacks. Day in and day out, we're getting emails pretending to be users within our organization. It's costing us money. It's costing us time. It's ruining our brand. We need to get our arms around this quickly. And the customers say, hey, look, we've invested in Microsoft. We've got the E5 license. We've got ATP. We've done everything that they told us we should do. We're still getting hammered. And as much as we're spending, as much as Microsoft's spending, is just not doing a good enough job. And, what are some alternatives? Well, we can look at yesterday's MTA-based solutions like Proofpoint and Mimecast, built on yesterday's technology, but those don't fit either, right? And it really comes down to the fact of what is the challenge for O365? Well, it's the most widely adopted business application today. We know that. And it's the most widely accessible. Anyone in the world can get an O365 account, including myself, including the hackers. They can get E5, they can upgrade it, they can put ATP on top of it. What does that mean? That means that they have the ability then to craft attacks, attacks that target O365. So the challenge for them is that their customers are a major target, right? One of the biggest targets, right? So it's very easy for a hacker to say, okay, I know this company X, Y, and Z is using O365. I'm gonna now use my own O365 account to test to see what attacks make it through, which ones don't. Right? So that's a challenge, and that's a big challenge for Microsoft, and it's a challenge for customers using O365. And it's not just our customers saying that. All you got to do is Google O365 phishing attack, and you'll see the fact that hackers are really crafting phishing attacks that are targeting Microsoft. They're trying to figure out a way to get past Microsoft defenses. There are a number of attacks out there that and we see these all the time, to be quite honest. So given the challenge, given that companies are looking to solve this challenge, what's a company to do? And we talked a lot last week or a couple of weeks ago. We did a similar webinar on Avanan versus ATP. I'm not going to get into that. Here's a link to that webinar you can take a look at. But I'll just rehash a little bit of what we talked about. and it's, Gartner, Trusted Sex, Expert Insights, they've all done analysis, right? Gartner's gone to talk to their existing O365 customers and say, hey, how is ATP and EOP doing for you? And they're actually put it in writing. Your customers are reporting dissatisfaction. Trusted Sec did their own analysis. In their words, Microsoft's not yet at a point, right, where other private sector companies are when it comes to advanced security. Expert Insights, another one, right? They did another review. It's just lacking when it comes to phishing protection. It's not true AI. That means it's less adaptable to your organization's requirements, and new threats, right? New threats, you need AI as part of the total package. And they go on to say it just lacks specific robust spoofing protection. So these are the challenges with O365. You can, an ATP, that's one alternative. But again, the focus of this webinar is how do we compare with the other alternative, which are MTA-based email solutions. So let's focus a little bit on that. So if you recall, when email was on-prem, Proofpoint and Mimecast, they built a technology that essentially stood in front of your on-prem email exchange server. And this made sense, right? The email, your MX record would point to their, the Proofpoint server. The MTA would then look at that. Is it spam? Is it phishing? If it is, wouldn't let it through. And when email was on-prem, this model made sense. But guess what? Email has now moved to the cloud. And two key things have changed when you move email to the cloud. One is that Microsoft has default security. Google as well, right? It's EOP is what Microsoft calls it, Exchange Online Protection. So that's number one. So they have some inherent security in the mix. Number two is Microsoft and all the other cloud-based applications leverage APIs. They allowed vendors like us to leverage those APIs to make those solutions better, more secure, right? So the APIs are a big piece of the puzzle. If you're gonna talk about doing anything with a cloud-based app, you have to talk about what are you doing from an API perspective. So placing yesterday's technology, again, that technology that was designed for on-prem email, and stick it in front of cloud email, well, that doesn't yield the same results. It's not built for the cloud, excuse me. It's not API native, right? And again, there's that word again, API. First thing why it doesn't make sense, and I'll go through a series of reasons why. But the first thing is that MTAs actually require you to bypass Exchange Online Protection in O365. You can look at the instruction manuals when it comes to configuring the MTA-based solutions. You got to literally bypass. So although you're adding an MTA, you're actually removing the inherent security that comes with Microsoft, right? So you gotta disable that. The other thing, our MTA-based solutions are blind to internal attacks. Why is that? Well, an MTA is looking at email as it comes out from the internet through into O365. Unless this email is routed out and back, like an internal email, MTAs are never going to see it. So they're blind to internal attacks. And remember, internal attacks, what happens when your account gets compromised in O365? That hacker uses that account to launch another attack to people within your organization. So internal to internal attacks are a big threat vector. They're blind to SharePoint and OneDrive, again, because they're not using the APIs, right? They don't even know SharePoint and OneDrive exist, right? They're blind to other cloud-based applications like Box and Slack. These are other forms of collaboration. Collaboration is not just email, it's all these applications, right? They're blind to compromised accounts. What happens when a hacker gets a hold of one of your O365 accounts? What do? They log in from Nigeria, right? The MTA doesn't see that. They introduce a new mail flow rule to send all emails into the deleted folder. They don't see that, right? So there are a lot of things they don't see, right? And these compromises are a big part of why phishing is a problem, right? Because their attacks are getting taken over. So MTA-based solutions are blind to those, and they're blind to shadow IT. And why is that a big deal? Well, shadow IT is a big problem for a lot of people. When I talk about shadow IT, companies have sanctioned applications. Hey, we're going to use O365, and you can use OneDrive and SharePoint. We use Slack. Those are sanctioned applications. But what about if users start leveraging Dropbox, right? Or a Box account, right? That's shadow application. Companies are trying to get their handle around that. And MTA-based solutions don't even know that shadow IT exists. And, let's reference a little bit what Gartner says about it. And it's not just us saying this. It's not just our customers. Gartner is saying this as well. Mailboxes are migrating to the cloud, right? And enabling new architectures. And specifically those that leverage APIs, post-delivery, right? These are their words. They're the ones that are saying, hey, when it comes to cloud email, things are different. They also go on to say cloud solutions are better positioned. And you got to understand, anyone can take software, put it in the cloud, and call it a day, right? That's not what Gartner's talking about here. They're talking about solutions that are built for the cloud, right? So don't get hung up, well, they've got a cloud-based solution. No, is it leveraging APIs? That's the question. They go on to say non-gateway solutions that integrate, right, are in a better position to detect communication anomalies as well as protect internal email. So again, communication anomalies, compromised accounts, talk about internal email. These are all things that companies are trying to get their arms around. So let's talk about the Avanan approach. Again, I mentioned this earlier, we are the pioneer when it comes to securing email with APIs, absolutely no doubt. As far back as we've been alive, we've been providing security for email, leveraging this technology. We are built for the cloud. We're not just in the cloud, we're built for the cloud. We're leveraging those APIs. The other nice thing about Avanan is that we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're leveraging best of breed security, best of breed sandboxing technologies, best of breed DLP solutions. We're leveraging these technologies as part of our go-to-market. And Chris will cover that as part of the demo. We are literally the fastest way to secure your cloud. It takes 5 minutes to set up Avanan. There's no rerouting of, don't need to update your MX record, any of that stuff. It's 5 minutes literally to set it up. And we always let the trial prove its value, right? Once we get the trial, we just don't lose. Because when the customers compare us with the other technologies out there, they realize, yeah, there's a whole lot more with Avanan. Gives me a lot more capabilities. Excuse me. So let's talk about the Avanan architecture. How does it work? Again, it's very quick and easy to set it up. It's API driven. The first thing that you do as an Avanan customer, or if you want to do a trial process is the exact same thing. You connect your Avanan account to your cloud-based application. In this case, it might be O365. Once that authentication is set up, we see everything. We see everything we need to see in order to do our job, perform our function. That's simply it, right? We're leveraging those APIs to get us that visibility. There's no update to MX records, and the nice thing is that we actually sit behind your existing security stack, right? So here's EOP. Even if you have an MTA up front, you can still test us, put us in there. We'll scan everything and detect everything they missed. So what do the APIs give us, right? And this is what we talk about. It's a layered security approach for any cloud-based application. We're using Microsoft O365 as an example here, but it starts with layer number 1, which is leave EOP in place. Don't touch it. Let it do its thing. For as good or as bad as it is, it's going to catch some things. Our AI, our learning-based algorithm, actually learns based on what EOP misses and what it catches, right? So leave that layer of security in place, right? The next thing that we're actually doing is adding enhanced phishing capabilities on top of it. Learning-based AI algorithms is what we're doing. We built our own technology. It looks at hundreds of indicators about every single email that comes in. And our focus specifically is what is Microsoft missing? What are these other providers missing? And that's where we're focused on. We layer in best-of-breed malware sandboxing. So if you're using a Checkpoint Sandblast or a Palo Alto Wildfire or FireEye, for example, last line, we leverage those emulation engines, those next-gen malware sandboxing engines as part of our platform. Again, we do the internal-to-internal email. The APIs give us the ability to look at that as well. The APIs also tell us what shadow applications are being used within your environments. What accounts are being compromised or have been compromised, right? Did you get someone logging in to an O365 account from Nigeria, right? Did someone implement a new inbox rule to delete all emails or send emails to an external email address, right? We're going to extend security to OneDrive and SharePoint and your other cloud-based applications. So again, this is what we talk about, a layered approach to security for your cloud-based application. It's multiple things. It's not just looking at an email, determining if it's okay and letting it go. It's the full package. From a trial perspective, I talked about the setup and the installation. From the trial perspective, it's straightforward, right? And again, we let the trial prove the value. Everything we talk about and everything Chris is going to demonstrate to you is available to you as part of a trial. And again, we just let the product do the talking. And when you connect Avanan to your O365 or your SaaS account, G Suite even, the data is going to start populating. We're going to tell you what shadow applications are being used. We're going to tell you what files are in your cloud environment that have malware. We're going to tell you the different anomalous activity, who's taking control of one of your accounts. We're going to tell you and give you great detail about the phishing attacks that we've caught, right? And what makes us incredibly unique is that, again, we're doing this without being an MTA in front of O365. You don't need to update your MX record. It takes 5 minutes to do this, right? And we have the ability to prevent these attacks from occurring quicker than anyone else out there today.